What's up, Soul Tribe? Welcome back to another movie review. Now, this movie right here actually terrified me as a kid, and I still thought about it as an adult. And you already know, when I go down the rabbit hole in these movies, you know that there's going to be a card coming from the ancestral wisdom journeying through the Hoodoo Tarot. And the card we're going to be tapping into is going to be the Seven of Swords. And there's a reason for this, okay? So once we go into this movie review and I break everything all down, this card will totally make sense. So this movie right here, Tales from the Dark Side, it actually has a few different photo covers for this particular movie, but I had to choose this one because the other ones were just a little bit of terrifying. I mean, this one is actually pretty terrifying, especially with that gargoyle. That's what that is right there. But this movie was made in 1990. And in this story, this little boy right here, he is going to tell 3 stories, okay? We have the story of the mummy, which is going to be the first one we're going to be going into. Then we have the story of the black cat, which is right down here. And then we also have the story of the gargoyle. And he tells these to actually save his life. But like I said, I'm going to dive into that here momentarily. But if you're liking these videos, don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more. So the movie actually starts with this woman right here, and she's driving from the market back home, and everything is just normal, okay? You got the neighbors. It's just a normal day out. But this lady right here, she wasn't your typical nice lady, okay? She seems normal, but to me, I think she's actually a witch or she's a cannibal of some sort. And in this part of the movie is when it shows that she actually has a child that is locked away in some type of pantry. It looked like a little dungeon to me, but that's why I said she's either a witch or she's some type of cannibal. Now, in this shot, she's on the phone and she's discussing dinner plans, okay? And she is going to be the hostess, so she's going to be cooking the food. But I'm not sure. This kind of reminds me, it's a movie about witches that, you know, they wanted to eat children or something like that. But she's on the phone planning this dinner party. Maybe they know about it, maybe they don't, okay? But it kind of reminded me of the childhood story of Hansel and Gretel. So while she was preparing to cook, I don't know what his name is. I don't know if it's little Timmy. I don't know. We're going to give him the name Timmy. But while she was, preparing him, she gave him a book to read. This book was Tales from the Dark Side. And she let little Timmy know that this book right here was one of her childhood favorites. This is when the movie starts to take more of a turn. And in this shot here, she is literally telling little Timmy how she is going to cook and prepare him while she preheats the oven. And this is when little Timmy went into fight or flight mode. He knew he had to do something to get out of here. So he begged and pled for her to let him read her story. And believe it or not, she listens. But she's only listening because she needs to pass time and still prep for him to be served. But this video is already getting kind of long, so you guys already know. Join me for the next episode as we dive into the first story, which is going to be the story of the mummy. Welcome back, Soul Tribe, to episode 2 and to the movie review of this movie here, Tales from the Dark Side. But before we dive in, if you're liking these videos, don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more. So the first story that little Timmy here reads is going to be the story of the mummy. And how this story starts out is by showing these 2 gentlemen here, and they're actually rich kids in college. And then we also have this, I call him the weird guy back here. So one thing that I quickly realized about these particular people in this college, these Ivy League colleges, these people were like manipulators. They were liars, okay? They cheated the system. They were actually talking about some type of plagiarism in regards to this guy here, because his sister, his sister is dating him, and she wrote his paper. So a little bit into this story, this guy back here, which I call the weird guy, I can't remember what his name was, but they did say it. But this guy introduces himself. Now, I don't know if he's a roommate. I don't know if he's a professor. I don't know what he is, but he's in this building that these kids live in. Or these are some grown-ass men, but these college students live in. So while they're having their conversation in the hallway, this guy back here receives a delivery. And this guy right here, he actually pays for the delivery fee, trying to show off his money or how much money he has. But if he only knew what he paid for. So the college students, they get curious about what's in this box. So this guy right here opened the box up. And this is what was inside of it. It was a mummy, it was a curse, and it was a whole bunch of F around and find out. So the man goes on to say that this mummy is 3,000 years old. And as you can see, he has some scissors here. So what this guy does, he is really disrespectful, and he starts to examine the mummy. So like I mentioned, it came with the mummy, and the mummy came with this curse and a whole bunch of F around to find out. And would you believe this guy actually read the scroll or the curse out loud? The mummy came alive, and that's when all hell broke loose. This mummy came alive and took everybody out. But this wasn't just some ordinary mummy. This mummy was very smart and calculated. But as long as this guy had the scroll, he controlled the mummy. So after this mummy is done unaliving people, he then turns them into mummies. So this guy right here, he started catching on that the mummy was out here unaliving folks. And that's when he kidnapped this guy right here, and he pretty much was trying to torture him because he realized that the mummy took out not only his sister, which was also corrupt and weird in her own way, but he also took out this guy right here. So while this guy was tied up, he tried to summon the mummy to come alive. And of course it worked. But again, this guy right here, he was also very smart. So he was prepared. He actually came with some type of like kitchen knife, and he kind of dismembered the mummy. He cut off his leg. I think he cut off his arm, and then I think he cut off his head as well. And then he threw it on the fire. But this guy actually survives, and he has to move out of the building. But he says, I'll keep in touch. So you would think everything was done and over with, right? Wrong. Here's the plot twist. You remember how I told you how the mummy was unaliving people and turning them into mummies? The sister and his best friend actually came alive, and then they unalived him and they turned him into a mummy. And that was just the first story that little Timmy told. So you already know this video is getting kind of long. So join me for the next episode as we go into the next story, which is going to be the Black Cat. And if you're liking these videos, don't forget to like, comment, and follow for more.